would like to go ahead and bring him on because I am dying to talk to him and I want as much time with him as possible. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Hey,
Hello,
Chris,
hello.
how are you today?
I am good. It has been a very early morning for me today, uh, interviewing people for my podcast, but it is going good. Things are going well.
Good. Good. I am actually, I enjoyed being on your show. I just want to put that out there. It was fun. It
Yeah,
was
I
really
mean,
good. Some different kind of
I,
questions.
yeah, I really hope that my guests have a different experience coming on my show, something a bit more in depth, as well as something just fun for the listeners to really get more information than they would normally get from other
Right.
shows. So, and I
Right.
appreciate your time in that as well. So, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. And I like people to ask me different kinds of questions. And both you and Yubi, who's on the show later, both did that. Both asked very unique questions and kind of dove into some different kinds of things. So the first thing I like to do when somebody comes on is get to know a little bit. Well, I know about you, but let's let the viewers get to know a little bit more about you. So tell us your history and a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So for myself, I have about 7 years in learning and development, talent development, and org development. And so really that's focused on right people, learning, training, and change. And where I've always been drawn to naturally has been around culture and the employee experience. And when we look at the employee experience as a whole, L&D and change management is only a piece of that puzzle. There is so much more that goes into it, right? Like culture, like recruiting, like we're talking about today. And then last year with the pandemic, I was laid off and then I took a recruiting position myself. And so that was it was a nice transition to actually dip my toes in that and
Mm-hmm.
put on that recruiting hat. Now I am full time at an organization as the people and change manager or as a people and change manager consultant, working with organizations on their own change initiatives. I also have the Leading People First podcast, like you were on as well. Your episode will be dropping in just a few short weeks. And I do work around DEI. Co-founded a group called the Leaders for Equity, Allyship, and Diversity, where we focus on having uncomfortable conversations. And if I
I
may,
love
Catherine,
that. I want to stop that real quick because that's something that we've talked about on the show, the importance of the uncomfortable conversation. And nobody wants to have an uncomfortable conversation, right? I don't think there's anyone that just really looks forward to that. But what you can look forward to, at least in my opinion, is the change that's going to follow it. Right.
yes,
And maybe that's kind of something that you can use to get yourself psyched up for these really difficult
yeah.
conversations that people seriously need to be having.
Yeah, and if I may, just I want to acknowledge the tragedy that happened last night in Atlanta, where we had a shooter go in and murder multiple individuals, specifically individuals who are of Asian descent. The Asian community today is absolutely reeling from that atrocious act. Whether or not it was racially motivated, it is still affecting the Asian American or the Asian community as a whole. So I want to acknowledge that really quick. You know,
Of
talking about
course,
uncomfortability, I want to acknowledge that. So for
you
those
have
of you
to.
who
Yeah.
are watching or listening, please reach out to your Asian identifying, Pacific Islander identifying friends, family, colleagues, because today is a very difficult day for them.
I, and I hate to say that use the word glad, but I am grateful that you brought that up because one thing that is important as an employer, a manager, a leader of any kind, is when something like this happens, not just in your own organization, but when it happens in your country, your area, your world, anything like that, it is important to reach out to your team and say, "Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
How are you handling this?" And to let them talk about it, maybe be a little extra patient with them that day, because these kinds of things can really shake us up. It really, really can. And hi, Chandra in Garland, Texas. I used to live in Garland. I feel like you're in my hometown right now. I love that. But these things are really, really important to discuss. And that is one thing. And even on the recruiting side, right, which is what we're talking about today, when you're hiring people, if something like this happens, acknowledge it. Say, hey, did you see this? How are you doing? How are you doing? Especially if it's someone in the affected community.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, when we look at recruiting, right? And if recruiting is just a piece of or a lens into an organization, right? And so when you look at how leaders and within an organization handle situations like this, what happened last night, that will come out during the interview process. That will come out on Glassdoor reviews. That will come out in some way. So it's important to know that as an organization, you need to address it properly in whatever form that might be, but you need to address it because that will show future candidates whether or not this is an organization that is actually committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion and actually respects the well-being of their employees.
100%. And caring about well-being is huge. So let's talk about that for a second, because on the recruiting side, it's really easy, and as you know as well, to get pressure from the hiring team and from managers and executives to just hire. And it's really easy to then forget the human element, and that these people are not commodities. These are not items that you're purchasing. These are human beings, and they're going to be your team members. This is your team. Their humanity matters. So from your perspective, from your work that you've done, what are some things that you do to help keep that human element on the recruiting side? And then I'm going to talk about it on the candidate side.
Yeah, on the recruiting side, there's a whole variety of factors. The one that really bothers me is having interview days where you are, where you you schedule an interview for someone to go like 3-4+ hours. I mean, if you think about just allowing people to bring their best self, you're not gonna it's incredibly taxing on candidates. And so when we look at that experience that they're going through, really think about okay, well, what's a way that we can humanize this? How can we create additional touch points for candidates, for potential employees? Because again, this is their probably their first experience that they're having with your organization, and you want that one to be a positive one. So how can you show your best self up front? I think Catherine, you and I had talked about before, this recruiting period, this interview is the first date of the relationship, right? And so if you as an organization don't care about your first date, don't care about that first impression, those employees, those really great employees, are going to be like, ugh, is that like they're treating me like that now? How are they going to treat me when I actually join the organization? They're probably going to 100%. So you have to think about that. You have to put your best foot forward and treat them like they are the most amazing person. They are that future hubby or wifey or whatever you want to put a ring on it. So make sure you treat them like that.
Right, 100%. So, and part of that is respecting their time. And if you want extra time with somebody, instead of having this grueling, 4 or 5 hour long interview process, which would make anyone just go bonkers, take them to lunch. Before or after. Or dinner, or whatever the next meal is. Something more casual that will let them relax a little bit and make it a little bit more human. And bring some people that might be on their potential team, that type of thing. If it's somebody that you feel you need to spend that much time with, then they're worth that effort. They are worth that. They are worth you taking that extra time to really get to know. And that's the most effective process to do. And hi, we have somebody greeting us from Boston. Hi. So I want to take, so I think that's really important. And then also I want to hit on the element of when they're coming into your office, do not leave them sitting there for half an hour to an hour with no drink, no nothing. First of all, don't leave them sitting there that long, period. But then offer them a drink, offer
Yep.
them, something, something to
Yep.
read, something like that. If you're going to take a few minutes, say, I'm so sorry, give me a few minutes. Here's a coffee, here's a water, whatever, here's a magazine. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. Give me 5 seconds. I'm stuck doing this. Or have your receptionist do that. That's so important, that
Yep.
human touch, because like you said, it's the first date, and that first impression goes both ways.
Yep.
It's
Exactly.
Hi, Corey from Kansas City. I have a lot of people say hi today. So on the candidate side, when you're walking in, first of all, before you go in, get your mind right. Okay. Listen to that music that gets you pumped up, and listen, call somebody that's your rah-rah, that's your cheerleader, and get your head right. Relax. And right before you go into the interview, read something or listen to something that will relax you, and just bring that blood pressure down so that you can be the best version of yourself.
Yes.
When you walk in, of course, posture and all that type of thing, but smile. People forget that. They walk in so serious. I mean, just smile. That makes all the difference. And have questions ready.
Yep.
Do that. Just
Absolutely.
right off the bat. Just a man, and say something interesting. I read this article about your company and I loved this element, or I saw this post. What are you doing with this product? That seems super interesting. Dive into something that's relevant to them to let them know that you care. That's going to set you apart more than anything else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, Catherine, you know me. Do your research, right? Like I'm all about researching, my
Research,
guests,
research,
right? Like
research.
do your research. You have to come prepared, because plus the more you come prepared as a candidate, the easier it is going to be to answer some of those questions. The more it's going to be, the more you can recall and you can talk about the organizational culture, the more you can talk about their values, their mission, things like that. So, and the thing
100%.
I like to, the thing I like to say is, you always, when you walk in that door or even virtually,
Mm-hmm.
treat everyone like they're your potential boss, even if
Yes.
if it's the recruiting coordinator,
It
right?
does not matter. Yes. Be
It does not matter,
respectful and
because
nice to everybody.
most organizations nowadays are saying, hey, they'll talk to everyone who's interacted with that candidate and said, how was your experience? Would you want this person to come in? And would
Right.
you want to work with this person? Even if it's a
100%.
receptionist, even if it's a coordinator, they're going to be getting their feedback from them. So make sure you are treating them just as much as just as well as you're going to treat
I've
your
seen
potential
people
boss.
lose jobs for being rude to a receptionist or a security guard. I've
Yes.
seen it. Yeah, it
Yes.
absolutely happens. So real quick, we have a couple of questions. One says, hasn't the pandemic put a halt on in-person interviews? No, absolutely not.
No.
It absolutely has not. Now, usually they're more limited. They'll do more on Zoom, but before you take that professional level job, they're going to meet you and they're going to see you face to face. Now, social distancing, probably, maybe using your mask, depending on where you are and kind of the comfortability. But no, there absolutely are in-person interviews. And then we have another question that says, what are some tips on how to get that first interview with the recruiter? Ooh, I have some good ones, but I'm gonna let you start with that.
Yeah. So I always like to go through back channels. Always go through back channels, because it is about who you know. Can you get an introduction to those recruiters, or can you get an introduction and get your foot in the door with that organization or that department? So it is absolutely about who you know. And even
Mhm.
if it doesn't lead to an interview, it will still it'll grow your network
It plants
for
the seed.
yes, exactly, and for future opportunities. So
Mhm.
that's one. Another is, if you are working with an in-house recruiter, a organizational recruiter, someone who works for that company, feel free to reach out to them. Just reach out to them and connect and say,
Yes,
hey, I saw this job
LinkedIn.
posting. Yes,
Yeah.
LinkedIn is your best friend for this.
Mhm.
Reach out to them and just say, hey, I saw this job posting. I would love to learn more about it before I actually apply.
Yes,
Right.
I love
And
that. Yeah.
and if say I'm interested I need more information, would you be willing to share that with me? I would say 4 out of 5 times you're going to get a yes and a reply.
Mhm. I love,
And
oh
at
yeah,
the very
candidates
least,
reach out to me. Yeah, I absolutely reply to them. Most recruiters I know do, and say, yeah, let's have a chat. Let's set something up. Let's do this. Now, be prepared that they may not want to talk to you on the phone yet because they're very, very busy, but they'll probably be willing to message you back and forth a little bit. So,
yes,
kind of go with them on that and don't request a call necessarily, just request the information because they're
yes,
going to be swamped. And if you ask for a call, you may just get shot down.
yep,
So
yep,
just ask for the information. Another really good one is start with someone else that's not the recruiter. Start with the receptionist, the executive assistant, something like that, to the appropriate hiring manager. They can be a good one. Another one, videos. Send videos, folks. Use BombBomb or one of those other technologies to make you a video. I'm not very good with those kinds of things, but there's all different technologies to do it. Make you a little video, an intro video, and send that via LinkedIn, email, something like that. That will catch their attention. And don't put a
yes,
weird subject. Put something like introduction or something like that. Don't sound sales pitchy, just be real direct and just have your video. That is attention getting. That will
yes,
get you a response.
yes. I
Absolutely.
mean, you have to think recruiters are getting messages and emails nonstop. So you have to find a way to stick out and not
Mhm.
even, again, not even just recruiters, but hiring managers or people within teams. So the way that you stick out is on LinkedIn, there's a feature where you can use your voice and send an audio message, or like Catherine, you said, send a video. And
Video. Yeah.
those are two methods that people are not using enough. And those are going to be ways that you can stand out.
Mhm. Yes, 100%. People want to see you. They want to get to know you. Another thing that you can do if you're not comfortable with video, or if you want to make very sure that there's no kind of discrimination happening against you. So if you're a woman or you can hear your age, something like that in your voice or an accent, I understand that. And so one thing that you might want to do is create a cool like introductory profile that's kind of an image, almost like a marketing image for yourself. And there are examples that you can find online or in Canva, things like, which is a free tool, by the way, to create this type of thing and go in and create a marketing image for yourself that's not a resume, that tells more about your passion and kind of who you are as a professional. That will go a long way. I've seen some of those be highly, highly effective, highly, highly effective. And
Yep.
that's something that may get that extra bit of attention because resumes get boring. Let me tell you, when you look at hundreds a day, and folks, that's how many they're looking at, hundreds a day. They all start to bleed together. Trust me. So do something unique like that. That will get you a lot more attention.
Yep. Absolutely. And it just shows that you're willing to put yourself out there. And
Yeah.
that comes off as confidence, that comes off as competency, right? And so if
Yes.
you can create that, yes, absolutely. Make sure that
Mhm.
you create something that will really market your skills and your abilities as well.
100%. So the other thing I want to talk about is follow up.
Yes.
Follow up. First of all, recruiters and HR people, if you have spoken to someone, you owe them a follow up.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why people don't get this. I don't understand it. And you can use your applicant tracking system to do it. You can use all different kinds of things that speed up the process, but you owe them a follow up and a timely follow up, not in a month, but in a few days to a week, you owe them a follow up. So, first of all, I'm just going to put that on out there. Second of all, candidates, you should be following up. And this is another great opportunity to use video, voice, a voice message, images, an e-card. Those e-greeting cards, you can do them for free online. Those are super cool. And you send somebody a thank you e-card that has all the animations and stuff, you're going to stand out.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that's
great idea.
thank
That's a
you.
fantastic idea. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah,
I stole that from a
again,
candidate of mine
It
who
that's
did
a
it.
s that's such a great that's again, you have to find ways to kind of stick out, and that's a using e-cards is a great way to do it. The other
Yep.
thing too is, these follow-ups as a candidate, these follow-ups are your chance to sell yourself a little bit more,
Yeah.
right? there's going to be a chance, there's going to be things that pop up for you after the interview that you're like, oh man, I wish I had said that, or I wish,
Mhm.
I had explained myself a little bit better, or I didn't think about this. Use that follow up to say, hey, thank you for your time. I really enjoyed talking about XYZ. When we were talking about X, I didn't get a chance to tell you about this, and put in like a one or two
Yeah.
liner about like your
Mhm.
work or something that highlights you on that topic. And that
Yep.
will show that you are still thinking about them and you have more to contribute.
100%. And also, I had an additional idea about this, or I thought of this cool, methodology or this cool tool for you, that type of thing. Those things go over really, really well. Another good one is a personal connection. Let's say you found out in the interview that you both have cats. Send them a cute picture of your cat with your follow up. It sounds silly, but that kind of thing will click. If you both like the same comedian, as long as they're kind of work appropriate, don't send
Yeah.
anything that could not be deemed work appropriate. But send them a meme of that comedian, or or a clip of that comedian. If they like, I don't know, football, send them something, send them a meme of
Yeah.
their favorite team and say go Steelers or go Cowboys or whatever. That will be huge. That personal connection is massive. 80% of the hires I've seen are made because they happen to like that person best. Not even saying that's how it should be. That's just reality.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when you think about in person, or sorry, not in person, but when you're an employee at an organization, right? How do you connect
Mhm.
with people? It's through these mutual interests. You create clubs, right? You have a softball team, you have a bowling league, you have, a board game group or a book club. Like,
Yeah.
take that and move it up in the process into the recruiting process.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a comment. Cool story. My friend hadn't heard about a position she applied for. 2 weeks later, she sent them a follow up email and asked for an interview. They scheduled an interview for the next week. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And just because you applied doesn't mean that they necessarily notice you. So if it's a job you really, really want, you need to be making that personal connection. Reach out on LinkedIn, reach out via email. You can always find people's information. Just, and if you really, truly can't find it, here's a tip. Call the main line to the HR or whatever and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I needed to follow up with so and so who's the recruiter, or I applied to this position. Do you have an email? And just ask for an email, not the phone or anything like that.
Yeah.
You can have their email. You will probably get it. About 4 out of 5 times you're going to get it when you pull that.
Yeah.
So, and just call up. They know why you're calling. It's a relevant phone call. So I want to ask you something. So one of the things that I love hearing are some of the funny stories of weird things that candidates have done over the years. And I would love to hear a couple of your stories, and then we can talk about what they should have done just real quick.
Ooh, there's so many. So are we talking like bad funny or like good funny? Or
You
but
know
either.
what? Let's do either way. As long
Yeah.
let's do either way. As long as it's a learning experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um Man, there's so many. The ones that really stick out are the ones where candidates forget that they're in a professional setting.
Oh yeah.
That's the one that always sticks out to me. There's a number of examples, but they ask just not not even like not work appropriate, but just like too personal of a question,
I think that
right?
both
Like,
ways. Recruiters do that too sometimes.
yes,
And you're going,
and
oh.
recruiters, remember, like, if you're in recruiting or you're in HR,
Mhm.
like, remember there are some questions that you cannot ask, or even like there are topics that you cannot even like act like you're broaching. Like,
Right. Just
you can't
stay away from
act like, yeah, like you can't ask, right, like whether or not someone is married or who they're married to. Like, you can't ask about
children.
identity, gender identity, children,
Can't
any of that stuff,
Nope.
right? So like you can't say like, oh, like, do you like attend like your like kids' birthdays like on the
Yeah.
weekends or
Don't
anything? Like,
don't
you
do that. Don't do
just
that.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be
But
weird.
yeah.
Don't be
Yeah, that also comes off as creepy, right?
It
But
does. It does.
yeah,
Oh, I've
yeah.
gotten some of those too. So this is one that I have been asked in an interview. This is, of course, many, many years ago. This was a man interviewing me who looked at me and said, Where did you get that skirt? It really accentuates your features.
Oh,
Ew. I just I just looked at him and just kind of stared for a minute and I said, I just don't feel like that's relevant.
yeah.
And I wrapped up that interview real quick and walked out because I was going, ew, you obviously have some problems. So that's another thing. You it's okay to compliment someone in an interview, recruiter or candidate. Don't comment on their looks. That's creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can say, hey, I love this picture frame that you have on your desk. Don't even compliment their outfit. That's weird.
No.
Don't do that.
No.
It goes into creepy territory, don't you think?
Yeah. And don't even if someone does like look really good, like even if you do something more generic or like, oh, you look nice today, like don't like anything that has anything to do with looks, stay away from it.
It doesn't matter if you're same gender. That is irrelevant.
Yep. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Just don't do it.
Super creep.
Well then, on that note, I mean, like what if someone notices like, a piece of jewelry that you're wearing? Like for me, I actually get a lot of compliments on my ring.
I think jewelry's safe.
Yeah.
I think jewelry's safe. Yeah, because that's not commenting about your body. It's really about, it's almost like a piece of art, right?
Yeah.
So it's like your purse. I feel like that's an accessory. That's not quite there. Or glasses. Yeah. Glasses are safe. But anything else, don't be weird. And thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. It has been an absolute blast. I loved it.
Yeah.
And real quick, tell people how they can connect with you. Let's tell everybody how they can connect with you.
Yes, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. It is Lead with Chris for both platforms. Or you can find me by my full name on LinkedIn, Christopher Lynn. And then you can also find me on the Leading People First podcast, available anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
And I was on it. So check me out in a couple weeks.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thanks again, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.